Hi, I'm Ember Conley, your host for Political Peaks. Today, we're joined by Blake Moore, who is the Republican candidate for Utah's 1st Congressional District. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
During the earlier this year, of course, you had to go through the primary, and the primary actually ended up being a pretty large field, a field of both veteran politicians and, of course, some new faces. And there's been articles written about your win in particular, that it was somewhat of a surprise, that they termed came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
What have you done in the last couple months to really get your name known throughout this very diverse district?
Yeah, so no question that the primary was kind of what was one article that said from unknown to GOP nominee. And I actually think that was a big part of my success was I entered the race late. I wasn't that well known, but I started to catch a little bit of momentum. And every time that happens, it helped it grow. And so people were like, what is the message? They were willing to go and check it out. And kind of that building that momentum, led us just barely through the convention where we finished with just enough to get onto the ballot, and then finished an election in the primary with just a small enough percentage to win that. The last 3.5 months has actually been some of the most fulfilling pieces of anything in my career. I've actually been able to go and meet with key stakeholders and policymakers and individuals from various groups across the district and just hear from them, kind of go on a big, long listening tour. That's been part of my campaign strategy to help, get the name out. But we just kind of pounded the pavement and got throughout the entire district just to hear from people and what they wanted their, their congressman, if I'm elected, to know, and what kind of interaction they want to have. And that stems from the Duchesne County Commissioners to the Park City City Council and meeting with Mayor Bierman and going up and meeting with the members of the ag industry in Cache Valley, as well as countless briefings at Hill Air Force Base and with other members that are affiliated with Hill Air Force Base. So that's been the whole plan and the tactic. Just go and hear people and what they have to say and what input they want to provide.
What are some of the common themes that you've heard from all of the groups? Are there common threads through all of them?
What I love about the district here is that the 1st District for a long time has had clear recipes for success on what the congressional office needs to be focused on. Sometimes a congressional office can be pulled in 1,700 different ways. In the 1st District, you have Hill Air Force Base, which is the largest economic driver, a huge component of our national security, and the support for that is unparalleled and needs to remain, needs to be focused on relentlessly. Economic recovery, though, I think would be probably the next biggest thing. And I was thrilled just recently to be given an endorsement from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, because those things don't just happen automatically with any candidate. I think they looked at my professional background. They know that I'm passionate and I care about making sure that we're thoughtful about how we go about getting an economic recovery, what we need to do to support small business. So that's the thing that I keep hearing about. And then you have an economic diversity that needs to take place for some of our more rural areas. So those are things that stick out on the top of my mind from what we've heard over the last little while.
Well, of course, COVID has been a headline, and especially now with increased cases. And I know that you actually had a bout of the COVID and it went through your family. So we're so glad to hear that you're recovering and that all of your family is healthy. What were the ways that you were still able to connect? You talked about pounding the pavement and having community groups, but yet, we're in a high case numbers right now.
Yeah, and we've gone through, I would say, we saw the initial spike and then we flattened the curve a little bit, and then in the late May time frame, we had a little bit more of a spike, and then we dropped it a little bit, and then now we're definitely seeing one of the largest. And those coincide with every time we try to get back going again. I've always said These can't be a binary decision. We've got to take precautions. We've got to be smart. We've got to be sensible. And I still stick with that, even having had it. But thank you, though. I'm glad our family's doing great. I joked with you that I probably felt the worst, but that's just because my wife's a lot stronger than I am.
Well, again, we're happy that you are recovering. I want to switch gears a little bit and really talk about the red and the blue, the Republican and the Democrat, both candidates. And there seems to be such a divisiveness in our nation on both sides. And one of the things that I love about Utah is that we've always been able to somehow come together and reach consensus on those really important issues. But again, we're starting to see more registered Democrats in the state of Utah. What really sets you apart from your Democratic candidate?
Yeah, thank you. I'm focused on a message that is inclusive, pro-growth, and aspirational. I have talked about what conservative values means to me. I've talked about it being, something that we not only care about the economy, but we care about our neighbor. I mean, what is Utah, right? You mentioned Utah. What is Utah? Utah is it's a state that has one of the strongest economies in the nation, one of the lowest unemployment, but at the same time, we're the most philanthropic state, both in volunteer time and dollars. And we need to make sure that conservative values are about empowering families and embracing the entrepreneurial spirit. So I think the biggest things is I have a very unique background and experience to go back and serve on committees in Washington, D.C. I have a federal level civilian service to my country that, it took me away from the state for a while, but that service is what set me up for success to come back and now serve the first district. And my professional background in management consulting is something that I really value because I've worked in virtually every industry. And we've talked about this before, from education to healthcare, to transportation, to financial services, across the board. The work that we've done helping companies solve problems. I'll never be the expert in any one of these particular industries, and I don't have to be the expert. I just have to be somebody that's thoughtful about asking the right questions, considering and taking input, and then developing a strategic plan to go and make a change. And I see that as very fundamental to the legislative process. And I think that my background, while it wasn't necessarily conducive to go run for Congress at the age of 39, I'm now 40 and over the hill. But when I started this, I was still sprightly and young and energetic. And I'm ready to go and take that unique background and go make a difference in Congress to be what I call a productive member of Congress. We don't need any more partisanship. We need productivity.
I think that really resonates with Utah around that productivity. I want to wish you the very best of luck. The next 2 weeks, of course, are going to be grueling as we get our final ballots in. So best of luck to you, and thank you for joining us.
It's all been a positive experience, and I look forward to more.
I'm Ember Conley, your host for Political Peaks. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Park City TV, over the air on channel 36 and on our Comcast channels 17 and 102.